Hi, friends. Welcome to the Making Spaces podcast. I am Sarah Heath, one of the co-hosts, and this is my incredible co-host,
Josie Jimenez in the house.
Josie. Good to see you. And we are really excited today to introduce Ana Kraft, who is the creator and CFO or COO or CEO. I don't ever know. There's a bunch of O's after.
Yep.
See something of an incredible company called Xena Workwear for Women. And I'm actually sporting the boots right now because when I was looking for steel-toed boots that didn't look horrendous or were men's, you were the only option that I could find online that were actually specifically for women. All of your workwear is for women, and you're opening and making space for women in the field of construction and building and all kinds of things. I'm excited to have you on here. I'm excited for people to get to know you more and your brand more. So with no further ado, Ana, the first question. And do you go by Ana or Anna?
You know, my German friends call me Anna, and in the US I go by Anna. So we can do Anna.
Anna, there we go. My niece is Anna, but then she watched Frozen and decided to be Anna for a little while, but now she probably doesn't remember that. That's when she was like 5, but she is Anna. Anna, what is one of your favorite spaces and why?
Oh, okay. It's such a good question. So thank you for having me on your amazing podcast. So, okay, what is my favorite space? I would say that I love to be by water. Like if that answer works. It's not the specific space in my house, but I just feel so energized to be by a lake or by a river. Like my perfect morning, how I envision my perfect mornings are, I get up, get a cup of coffee, and can sit by a beautiful lake. So that is my happy space.
I agree with you. I absolutely adore the water. I grew up where I was born was like right on the water. And I don't know if that's possible to still be affecting me now, but I feel like I always feel more grounded. And even like for those who are just listening to the podcast versus watching it on YouTube, right behind Ana is this incredible photo of water.
Yeah, this is my whole house theme. We live in Milwaukee, which is right by Lake Michigan. And whenever I get a chance, I go for a walk to the lake or I jog along the lake. We have a beautiful, during summer months, during our short summer months, we have a beautiful farmer's market. So it's just so amazing to pick up a coffee and a little snack from a local bakery and sit by the lake and just recharge. It's wonderful.
It is really, really gorgeous. So how long have you lived in Milwaukee?
I came here for the very first time 7 years ago, like during my internship. I studied in Germany, project engineering, and because it was an international program, I had to go abroad, and I always dreamed of living abroad for a little bit to experience a completely new culture, speak a different language. So I came to Waukesha, Wisconsin first, and then during that time, I met my husband here. And because he doesn't speak any German, after I finished my degree in Germany, I decided to move to Milwaukee because I love I love the city. Overall, love living in the US. I love this optimistic, very entrepreneurial mindset that so many Americans have, and yeah, love being here. So I lived here for about 6 years.
I grew up in Canada, and my dad, when we moved from Canada to actually we moved to the South, but my mom is British and my dad is Canadian, and he always calls the US the excited states of America. He's like, everyone is always excited and optimistic and hopeful.
Yeah.
And like, whereas our culture in Canada is much more like, we'll see. Just kind of like a we'll see policy when it comes to anything.
Okay. That is interesting. I wouldn't expect such a big difference between US and Canada since they're bordering each other culturally. That is very interesting. It is shocking. I've traveled to so many countries around the globe, but have never been to Canada. Like in Wisconsin is bordering Canada. It's shocking. As soon as the borders open, I'm going.
You better go. You better
when I'll be
go.
safe.
So you said you studied, did you say you studied engineering?
Yeah, it was a really cool program in my university called International Project Engineering, which combines different engineering subjects with project management. So it's basically for someone who is who needs an engineering background but helps a team of specialists to run a very specific project. So I loved it because I could never decide what I want to study. I was always interested in so many subjects, but I could not study only physics or only Spanish. So this program was perfect for me, and it opened up so many doors and allowed me to come to the US. And now now I'm running a company with some of the knowledge that I gained through this program. So
So
Now,
do you
were there a
speak
lot of? Go ahead.
sorry.
No,
Anna,
you.
do you speak Spanish? Is that what I heard?
yeah, I speak four languages, but Spanish is probably my weakest. So we we manufacture in Mexico, and last time when every time I go there, by the first couple days, I'm like, I'm so confused. It takes a while to get into the language. But then after week one, I'm like, I can have a real conversation with my Uber driver. And then when I'm in the factory, I'm like, I can communicate with with the workers there. So it takes a couple days for my brain to reset. But once I get into the flow, and it's coming back. Do you
I
speak
love it.
Spanish?
Oh yeah, I'm super Mexican. I'm the most Mexican ever.
If there was
um,
a superhero called Super Mexican, it would be Josie Jimenez.
yeah, I'm
Hmm.
pretty Mexican. But funny enough, I took 4 years of German in high school.
You did? Oh, that's so
I
cool.
don't remember most of it, but I did do it.
Have,
I
have
did
you
it.
have you ever been to Germany?
No, it's one of my dream places to visit though. I think it's just it's such
I
like a
love
different
it.
culture than Mexican culture, so I'm
Hmm.
fascinated. I want to go so
Well,
bad.
yeah, you should go to southern Germany. I'm biased. I'm from southern Germany, and have some nice German beer. September is a good time to go for
Mm,
Oktoberfest.
mm-hmm.
Weather
Oh,
seems good. Now
it sounds amazing.
I've been looking back at my all my travel pictures and looking at the amazing pictures from Mexico and all the amazing food. I miss it.
Ooh, the food is unbeatable in Mexico. What can I say?
It's true. Although
Yeah.
I happen to also really like German food. When
Oh
I was
yeah.
there, just just the heartiness of it. And
Mhm.
beer, you can have a German beer in the US or even in Canada, and it's good. It's great, actually. But when you have a German beer in Germany,
Mm,
that's a
Mm.
whole different
mm-hmm.
flavor. It's colder. I don't know how. I don't know why. It
Yeah.
just is.
Have you been? So Sarah, sounds like you've been to
Hmm.
Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
What part?
Gosh, I went to Munich.
Mhm.
Where else did we go? We kind of did a tour um, when I was in high school, and
Mhm.
then have been back since. But um, basically, I think mostly Munich is where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Munich is a great place. Yeah.
I loved it. Were there a lot of women in your program? I'm just one of the things that always fascinates me is how do people get to where they are to make space for others? Is it because they themselves have felt outside of the brackets?
Mhm. They were out of 40 students, there were about 6 to 8 girls in our program. And I would say they were the smartest people in our class. Um, one of my closest friends who has actually moved from the Ukraine to study this program, she finished as the best out of the whole class. Like her background initially was languages, so but she kicked ass in physics and math and everything else. And like all the girls in my class did so well in engineering, but it was a initially a difficult environment. Women and girls have to prove themselves more in these
Yes.
spaces than guys do. So it was a little challenging initially, but then after at least one semester, all the guys were coming to us to get some help on on the projects that we had.
Heck
Y-
yeah.
You know, it's interesting. There is one of the mayors in Toronto was was a woman, and someone asked her what it was like to be a woman, running. And she said, as a woman, you have to be twice as smart, twice as like had all this list of stuff, work twice as hard. And she said, luckily, it's not that hard to work twice as hard as my competitors. I thought, you do it, you do it. And actually, when I was looking
That's a
at
good one.
your website at first, I was blown away by there's a shirt that says the best, what is it
Yeah,
for The best man for the job is a
the
woman?
right, yeah, the right man for the job may be a woman.
Yes. So my dad, when I graduated from grad school, gave me a mug that says the best man for the job is usually a woman. And I thought that that was,
Love
thanks,
that.
Dad. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing to talk about. Because when you're a project manager, you're not just like you're asked to oversee a project and in construction and in these sort of projects, a lot of the other people are going to be male, and having someone over them and suggesting things for them. We're still, I mean, I wish things had culturally shifted more than they have, but there is still that difficulty of being a woman in these environments.
For sure. Yeah. You when you start a new project, it takes a while to get the respect that you deserve, and you will always have a few guys who are super old school who are like, oh, like what is this woman doing here? And that was the challenge, because my job was not just be a project manager, but I was hired as a project management consultant for a major manufacturing company, and my role was to develop plans for multi-million, highly critical projects that they didn't trust to give their internal team. So they hired me to help them with that. So if I'm in the room with the best engineers they have in the company to do the planning and kind of guide them through this whole process, I had to dress professionally. It was almost part of my contract. When you work with clients, you show up and professionally, dress professionally. And it was always a challenge, that I looked ridiculous wearing a nice blouse or a nice blazer with my clunky, terrible hiking boots. Or
Mhm.
what happened in most cases, I dressed nicely for the meeting. And then once we would wrap it up, one of the guys would say, all right, let's go out on the shop floor and check on the progress of the project that we just discussed. And it was a manufacturing facility, and they had multiple constructions going on, moving from one space to the other. So I had to wear all the necessary PPE, high-vis vest, a hard hat, safety glasses, earplugs, and safety shoes, of course. And I was the one who had to run back to the desk and put on my terrible boots that I hated so much. I had two pairs there. Both were uncomfortable. Both were designed clearly for men. And I just felt like a clown walking through the shop floor, and just felt so uncomfortable. They were, in many cases, I was tripping over over my own boots, which is not the purpose. And after so many years of complaining about it and talking about this to my friends, I had a lot of friends in engineering. I thought, this can't be rocket science. I want to figure out how to make a safe and stylish boot designed for a woman's foot. So, and that's how
But
Xena was
let's be
started.
honest, if it was rocket science, you probably still could have done it.
Yeah,
Judging on your
yeah,
ability to
yeah.
figure it out. Yeah.
You know what? One of the inspirations was I listened to Elon Musk's biography, and
Mm.
this guy is a genius. Like, he started so many different companies, and I thought, if he can start SpaceX and Tesla and Solar City and the Boring Company and Hyperloop, like, I can start this. I can start a workwear company designing amazing functional clothing for women. So he was one of my inspirations along the way.
Well, it's so funny because I am a hobbyist when it comes to like restoring things and flipping things, and I had, you know, I have a pair of quote unquote work boots. They were hiking boots, exactly what you're talking about, so that I at least felt like my toes were safe. And I had worked construction one summer, and that time was, which was a while ago. This was when I was in college. I worked a little bit in construction. I could only get men's boots, but
Hmm.
my feet are small. So I had to wear like little boys work boots. Like that was my only option. Or I wore like hiking boots, which are great and wonderful, but they don't often have the steel toe kind of
Hmm.
stuff that you need. And I was working on a project actually in our church. There are pews. I was putting casters on our pews, and I like ran over my own. It doesn't matter. But I realized like I need to have, and I'm lifting things. I tend to not
Mhm.
be that careful or particular when I'm working on woodworking and things like that. And even before the Airstream project, I was doing projects that like probably needed to have some safety shoes. So went to look and literally could not find women's work boots that were anything that you'd, like you say, you'd want to wear in out in public. because oftentimes when I'm working on something, I'm going straight into something else because it's not my full-time job. So it's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
I do for fun. And then I'm having to switch shoes out. And so it's been so fun to like even follow since I got my first pair, which was in September. Like you guys have just been releasing more and more options for women to be able to sort of yeah, it's funny how like
Yeah.
clothing makes space, right? Like, do we have the proper equipment? We can't show up if we don't have the proper equipment.
Exactly. And you mentioned this earlier. It is already difficult enough for women to fit into the male-centric industries. Like there are already so many challenging dynamics you have to overcome. You have to prove yourself. Having and, and poorly fitting workwear that is distracting you from your job is just an unnecessary barrier. So by fixing this problem, women can finally focus on the job and the work they loved, accomplishing goals instead of even being. I don't want this even to be a topic. At some point, hopefully everyone we will. I hope to eradicate the term shrink it and pink it at some point. That the
Oh,
girls who are
right. The
growing up
pink
now.
tax.
Yeah, shrink it and pink it, it refers to so many companies right now take a men's boot or a men's jacket, make it smaller, make it pink. But that's not what women want to wear. Like pink, clunky boots don't help me to feel confident. Just making something pink or purple does not solve the problem. There's nothing wrong with the color, but it's a wrong approach to create work clothing for women.
Right.
Yeah. I love that you wanted like said that you don't want this to be an issue one day. Um and I really identify with that because I come from a really blue collar family. My dad is a roofer and he's been really successful in the business, and all of my family's in construction or body painting cars or stuff that requires these types of materials, right? And it's interesting because my dad had a son that had zero interest in working in blue collar stuff. My dad remodeled our whole house, and I was the one walking around like, "What are you doing? Can I do that? That?" And that was me. And so I've learned, and I was an art major in school, and I worked with all the power tools, and I helped teach people how to use them and stuff like that. But I've always been bothered by people saying like, "Oh, you're like gonna wear a dress and hold a drill," and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna wear pants and shoes and whatever I'm wearing that day. And I hate that like image of like this woman who's like, I do it all, but like in a very feminine way, because I'm just not very feminine.
Mhm.
um and that idea of like it being a non-issue anymore is perfect for me. Like, yes, I can drill. Like my
Yeah.
partner, couldn't put up these shelves. I put up the shelves because I know how to do that. He just doesn't know how to do that.
Oh, same here. Don't tell my husband, but
I
I
love
don't
that
even know
idea.
how to use that tool. Let me
Yeah.
do this for you.
Like, why is that an issue? Like that I know how to do this stuff and he doesn't. He's the one that
It
cooks.
shouldn't
It's
be, yeah, it
perfect.
shouldn't be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there
I
aren't,
don't yeah.
exactly.
I don't want
and
to be
also
seen as
this
a
idea of,
woman who can do these things. I want to be seen as just someone who can do these things.
Exactly.
and I
I
like the
hope that
idea too
that is
of
true.
some of your shoes are really feminine. So like for me,
Mhm.
fashion is something I love. I love style. My workwear is Carhartt overalls or a pair of workwear pants, but um, I still want to look like I still want to feel like I like these boots. I don't want them to just be, yeah, I don't want them to just be that like, oh gosh, I have to wear these, because guys,
Mhm.
in general, like the guys, the space for them has already been opened where they have all these options for boots.
Hmm.
And um, I think sometimes we don't recognize like the reality of how important it is for people to see other people doing something so that they then can believe that they can do it, right?
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
when we think of a construction worker, we think of a construction man, right? Until we see someone who is not that. Or when we see a project manager, we think of maybe a man. And I laugh because I'm realizing my friends who work in the construction field, oftentimes they are given like a pink helmet. I would think that was fun. But it also says, here you've made this level. So like when you make different levels, you get different helmets in my friend's company. Um, and you've made this level, but you're still a woman in that level, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's just a little
Yeah.
bit different. So when
Yeah.
you came up with this idea, were your friends like, yes, please?
The worst, my friends were supportive. My friends who work in these spaces, they get the need, but there was so much resistance from our family, and it was challenging in the beginning. Like I was born in Kazakhstan, so my parents grew up in the Soviet Union, where like, why would you start a business? Same with my husband's parents. And I moved to Germany only when I was 10. So my parents come from this background, like, why would you leave a safe job and risk everything to start a business? And like that was so crazy. But after we went through an accelerator program and secured our first round of our seed round, which is, I think we raised $750,000. It's like, see, guys, this is not stupid. We've been working hard on this idea, and there's definitely a need. We had pre-orders before we even launched the product, and having that term sheet, receiving it from an investor who says, I believe in you and your idea, and having a group of people who stand behind you, that was very powerful.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, so both Josie and I come from, strangely, both of us are from immigrant families, mine from Canada, hers from Mexico, but our family's immigration is very different when you're coming from Canada.
Hmm.
But there is often, it doesn't in any way less mean we don't both come from a little bit more of, oh, but why would you do that when you could do that as a hobby and
Hmm.
have a secure job is a very big concern, right? That's very culturally true of British people and Canadian, we just have like, make sure you have no, you can do that for fun. Like, oh, you want to design clothes? Cool. Do that like for
Yeah.
fun. And that's,
Hmm.
it's so beautiful to see someone who is like taking a dive. When did you guys launch?
We officially launched in May of 2019. So we turned one in May of this year.
What a
So,
tough
well,
year to
one and
turn
a half
one
years.
in.
Yeah. But we were thinking about this. We're actually glad that we didn't launch during this whole pandemic or after. Our team is like so small and lean that we could keep everyone on board. So we had to rethink and re-strategize how we can operate. Of course, instead of working from a co-working space, started working from home. But I'm so glad that we didn't hire a bunch of different people and had to lay someone off. So we can't complain. We could maintain all of our people. We were growing very slowly, not as well as early this year, but overall, I'm grateful about still being busy, delivering products, everyone being healthy. So,
Well, I can
That is
imagine that you
good.
guys are selling because people are doing all sorts of projects now.
yeah.
I mean, my partner, he works for Bear Paint Company, like the one
Hmm.
that's at Home Depot or whatever. And they've been selling paint like hotcakes. It's
Yeah.
insane. Because, I mean, he gets like a bonus or whatever based on sales. And he's like,
Hmm.
people are really into painting their houses right now, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. So you have after this whole shutdown, you realize uh, who is running the country right now? It's the trades were running the
Hmm.
country. You had healthcare, of course, nurses, doctors, and then tradespeople, like certain construction has to keep going. We need to maintain our infrastructure. Many manufacturing facilities who are somehow related to infrastructure and food production. All those places were hiring more people. So I hope it will also help more people realize that college is not the always the way to go. It doesn't have to be a must to get
Hmm.
a
Mm.
college degree. The trades are like, I hope people will value the trades a little bit more and explore careers in those fields because there's a lot of need in these spaces. And I also hope that girls will have more courage to explore these fields as well.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things you have. You have in your list of things, and I actually pulled it up because I love it so much, like your purpose, basically. And one of your purposes is empowerment. Together, we want to build a community of daring women who will encourage a new generation of girls to pursue careers in STEM and the trades. And I think that's so inspiring to me. I don't know if you've heard of Girl Garage, but have you heard of Girl Garage in Oakland? It's a teaches girls like in the city, inner city, to
Mm-hmm.
be tradespeople, but also teaches them like how to do poster like printing and all this sort of stuff. And it's
That's
incredible
so
to me.
cool.
Oh my gosh, I will send you the link because they have
Please
been
do.
I found them the same week I found you guys, which is like as soon as I started realizing I was going to get serious about designing spaces, I was like, I need to like find things, and it was harder. You can't just go to Home Depot and find stuff if you're a woman, and so I found both of you guys, Girl Garage, and then Xena Workwear.
That is amazing. Yeah, I have to check them out. If you can send me a link,
I
if you
definitely
know
will.
anyone there, let me know.
They're great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. They came out with a construction book called Girl Garage, which just talks about how to use every single tool because some of the same things that happen for women in the gym. Um, Josie loves the gym, don't you, Josie?
No, I hate the
Hates
gym.
the gym.
I don't work out.
I love working out. Josie thinks it's like against her religion. But when you're in a gym, like you feel like you don't know how to use things. That's everybody's experience. But women in particular, there are areas of the gym we don't go into. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of this way that a lot of us approach construction or building is like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to look silly not knowing what I'm doing.
That is
Yeah.
actually such an interesting description. I've never heard this before, but it's exactly that, where you have this area in the gym where you have the weights. And like, I'm curious to try them out, but I don't want to look silly trying it out or asking for help. And I think we need to have more courage to do this. Like after I started doing more CrossFit, I'm like, okay, that's a lot of it is weightlifting and different techniques that you learn as a group, which is awesome. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Go ahead. Sorry, Josie.
I was to say it's hard as a woman trying to be like in construction, I think, because it's just so my dad wants to start his own roofing company at the age of 50 whatever because he just doesn't want
Love it.
to have a boss anymore. But homeboy does not want to get a contractor license. He does not want to study for the test. He doesn't want to take the test. And so his bright idea was to have me take this test, right? Because I know how
I
to
didn't
study
know
for a
that.
test. Yes, it's an ongoing conversation in my family. But so I thought I'm just gonna go for the because you can have like a roofing contractor's license or you can have like the contractor license. But
Hmm.
I cannot get it because I have to have 3 years of journeyman experience, and there's no way that any company ever is gonna allow me to be a journeyman.
What's a
And
journeyman? Teach me, guys.
Yeah,
so
please.
it's like when you start working in construction, there's different levels and journeyman, foreman, there's like these different levels. And journeyman, I guess, is just like the minimum rank you need to be able to have 3 years of experience to apply to be a contractor's license. Basically saying like you know what you're doing. You're not gonna build a house and it's gonna fall down or whatever. But I can't get that experience because I'm a woman and I probably could, right? I could probably really go for it and really break down all these barriers. But my dad was just like, you know what? I can't put you in that position because he just knows the culture of construction. And he's like, my baby girl's not gonna go through that.
I mean, you could if you really wanted to, but
Yeah.
you should do it if you're passionate about it, and probably not to get a license. So you should push your dad to.
I know my dad, who is like way above a journeyman, God knows what his rank is now, but he just is. I'm just like, well, sorry, Dad, you have to study for the test now. I don't know what you want me to do.
You
But
could help him study.
yeah, I guess. But that's smart. He can study on his own. He just is bummed that the one I have the most construction knowledge of all of his children, and there's
Hmm.
just like all these little barriers, well, huge barriers to me being able to have any sort of career in construction.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's what we're watching slide away, like the generational, like slide of like, hey, let's not, so it's interesting. I've got my Airstreams up in Bend, Oregon, and my dear friend has two kids. And she's a boy and a girl. And it's the little girl who's the most fascinated with what does that tool do? How do I use that? How does that work? She's got, I would call my brother's an engineer. So I have a more artsy brain. My brother's definitely the engineer. Like, let's take this apart and fix it. And watching this little girl is like watching Jonathan when he was younger. Like, how does that work? Can I make this work? What if I flip it this way? And I'm hoping that we are through representation breaking down those barriers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry you had to be a pilgrim as far as like even creating a workwear company, but it excites me to see where it could go.
Yeah. The same. I think, and the nice thing is there's so many companies and organizations who are working to solve this problem. There are different other workwear brands that focus on different things. So we started with safety shoes, and my background is manufacturing. there are other companies. There's Hot Work that she worked in oil and gas her whole life, and like women had to wear these terrible, ugly coveralls, like the one
Yep.
piece suits, like
Yep.
men's suits. And she decided, like, I want to design something stylish for myself. So she created these amazing FR rated suits for coveralls for women in beautiful colors, and nicely fitted. So you have women taking on different areas of PPE and fixing the problems. And then on the nonprofit side, I love to see different organizations who start going into school and like start to work with girls at an early age, and expose them to construction and manufacturing and 3D printing and robotics. I think this is very cool, so that girls need to see more role models and need to see more opportunities that they can choose from when they finish school.
And doing it in our own way. So I'm a pastor at a church, and often I speak at events around the country. And it like there hasn't been, well, not during COVID, there hasn't been an event I've done where a young girl, has come up and said, "I've never seen someone who looks like me do what you're doing, and now I'm
Mhm.
thinking about doing that." So for you, Anna, was there someone, Anna, that like inspired you, that like got you to think through this, like even as a career field?
Mm, there were a few women that I enjoyed reading about. But one of them is Sheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook. She was this
Hmm.
hardcore woman in the leadership team, and made a lot of progress for women in that space. But I think it was more importantly that I was kind of a rebel when I was growing up. I hated when people told me girls are not supposed to do that. And like this whole Russian immigrant environment, I heard this a lot because we grew up in Kazakhstan, which is a Muslim country, more conservative, where women don't have always the same rights as men, or same opportunities, I should say, as men. And when I heard at the table, like, that women are not supposed to do that, and when I heard like women are supposed to have um, children and be at home, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but you should have it as a choice and not someone telling you this. So I'm like, oh, when I heard that women cannot do engineering, I'm like, oh, I could prove you all wrong. So it was, I always wanted to have a job where I would have a purpose. Purpose was always super important to me, and like having a positive impact in the world, and yeah, just proving for myself that I can do things that men can do.
Heck yeah, I love that.
I'm so tempted to buy my cousin a pair of these shoes. So my cousin is a lawyer by trade, but she works at a construction company. So she's the one of the counsels for a construction firm. And so she's training these like pretty hardcore guys that are all the way up into foreman. And my cousin is about 6 feet tall, and former model. So she is very skinny, beautiful. And she wears cowboy boots most days. But I went to her office and noticed there was a pair of heels on the floor. And I said, "What is that for?" She said, sometimes when people are giving me crap, like I put these heels on and then I'm 6'4". So and she didn't work in construction the whole time. This is her second. And she said, I I like to look down on them and be like, "This is how you're making me feel. How do you feel now?"
Uh-huh. Oh yeah,
And I think it's
that's so funny.
more and more women like that are inspiring in some ways, because my cousin is like not really a rebel in some ways. She's very like, she's a lawyer. She's very clean cut and all this sort of stuff, but she puts on those beautiful designer shoes and towers over these guys who are standing in their work boots. And I think
Hmm.
it's not about domination, but it's about participation and being in the space and not feeling like you said, like the fact that you would have to go to your car and switch out your shoes while everyone else is just directly going in, right? That makes a barrier and a difference.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons she might love her heels is that she is a little bit taller, but I can imagine when I wear heels, I feel so confident. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
when I have a bad day, sometimes like, okay, today was rough. Let's go out for dinner. I love to put on my heels, or in many cases, our gravity boots, and I'm like, I feel amazing. And it's what you wear has an impact on your self confidence and how you enjoy your work overall.
it is about space making. I mean, really, it is. You're like
Mm-hmm.
presenting not just a building, but you're presenting yourself. And so often when it comes to construction or engineering, where project management, even, it's you're not just selling you're selling your ability and your relationship to the people. Like you have to give off that, like, because there's lots of people in the industry. So what is it about us that sets us apart? And sometimes it's that
Exactly.
confidence, right? And if you don't have the confidence, people aren't probably going to hire you.
Very true. And yeah, confidence is key. It doesn't matter where you work, being authentic. And what I've heard from many women who love our boots, they sometimes send me a note saying, "Thank you so much for designing these. I finally feel like myself." And we're all so much more successful when we can be our authentic selves instead of dressing like our dads. They say, like, I feel like I'm finally myself and not dressing, wearing my dad's clothes, oversized dad's clothes. So yeah.
I love it. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm actually this person. I think we all struggle with imposter syndrome. All of us. There's not a human who doesn't. And then put yourself in a position where there aren't other women or there aren't, then you really feel like, am I like being myself in this? I love that. One of the things that I think is really, I loved your product, bought it, had no idea who you were. When I literally looked for steel toe boots, and I was like, I like this boot. Didn't even know what it was. Bought them for myself for my birthday. Because for my 40th birthday, my friends helped me buy an Airstream, and I bought myself these shoes. And I, when I got the product, you have done such an intentional job of even the branding on the shoebox. So like I can't ever throw the shoebox out. And I'm like a neat freak. Josie can tell you. But like each bag for each shoe, and just like it feels like these boots are going to be a big part of your life, just based on even the personal note that you sent, and then all the various accreditations that they have. Like what does one boot you have? Like there's slip stuff, there's steel toe, there's, what are all of them? Do you know all of
Yeah,
them?
yeah. They're different certifications. So the basic ones that are included in all of them is a slip resisting outsole, a protective steel toe cap, and then there are different variations based on the model. One of our boots is, or a couple models are electric hazard certified. So this is meant for electricians. So it has an insulating outsole to make sure that you would never get an electric shock. Then we have this ESD boot, which has the opposite effect. You know that you can sometimes have static charge when you touch a door handle or your car door, like you have a little spark. That can be very dangerous when you work with highly flammable materials in a chemical plant. You could start a huge fire, or if you're working with sensitive microchips, you could destroy a multi-million-dollar chip just by touching it. So one style of our boots conduct the static charge from the body through the boots to the ground. And then the latest model
I'm
that we
learning
just
more things to be afraid of that I didn't know to be afraid of. Keep going, Anna. I'm so sorry.
yeah, and this last one, I'll show you this very quick, that we just launched yesterday. The Fusion MT, it's a metatarsal boot, so it has not only a steel toe cap but also an internal metatarsal guard. And we use a really innovative material. It's open cell foam material that is flexible at rest, which makes the boot very comfortable to walk in. And it hardens during impact, so creating a protective shield. And they're super comfortable and stylish. I've been wearing them all week.
That's so cute.
That's
I love it. I love too that it's like, this is for this one, this is for this one. Again, just making it
yeah.
more and more, I guess, like specific to the person and to the task that they have.
And it's specific, yeah, it's specific to your style and the job environment and the safety requirements that you have. Which model do you have? I think you have the Omegas, right?
I believe they're the Omegas.
Yeah, very cool. I love them.
I
Yeah,
wear them like
that that's that was the second model that we released. We launched with the Gravity boot, which is meant as a walkthrough boot. So this is basically for women who work in an office space most of the time, like being in meetings, being in presentations, and then once in a while have to be out on the shop floor to check on a project. or just to get to a different conference room, or when you're in sales and have to sell an amazing product to your clients, and then usually afterwards they take you on a facility tour. Many women used to carry a whole bag of like their clunky boots to put on after the meeting. So now they say it's amazing. I get on a flight, I'm wearing the boots, I go to the meeting, the facility tour, and go back. So
Yeah,
this is
those
the
are,
one that we
I would
want to.
just wear those as like a street shoe. I
Yeah,
also have an
and
ankle boot addiction. It's fine. Everything's fine. I love that so much. I would love to hear if there's any way that you think, because you have literally been a space maker for other people. I mean, creating a business, getting other people on board, really knowing your clients super well. When you think about what it means to make space for other people, is there like one way that you think is a tangible and easy way for other people to make space for people?
I think, I mean, our goal is to make more spaces for women in these non-traditional fields, not only manufacturing, construction, it's basically any right now male-centric environment. I want to open up more spaces, encourage more women to take on those careers because those are well paid and incredibly interesting jobs. So I want them to have more courage to go into these spaces. And I think everyone can participate in this process by being aware of these issues and giving women the opportunity to, like everyone, the opportunity to get the right fitting PPE, because when you have something that fits well, you will more likely wear it. You will not cut any corners. You will be out on the shop floor or job site more often, building those face-to-face relationships that are incredibly important. So yeah, I think when we're on the right path to open up more spaces for, especially for women.
I think so too. I know I'll be cheering you on. You'll have to. I'm for sure staying in touch with you. I am definitely a believer in. It's so fun to find something that you feel good about because it's eco-conscious too. And by the way, this is not a commercial. We're not being paid to talk about these boots, but I think it's more this mindset that something needs to change, and I'm going to be the one to do it. We early on, and Josie and I working together on this podcast, we talked to a florist who is a mutual friend. And she was talking about how she kept thinking, it's just like exactly what you're talking about. She kept thinking there's something like for her, it was this idea of diversity in the floral and wedding industry. And she said, I realized at some point that no one else was going to fix the problem. And I couldn't just be upset about it. I had to do something about it. And so, and I love that you said, I got to do something about it. And then you took the leap. Thank you so much for sharing with us your journey. Is there any way that people can get in touch with you? Let us know about your website, Instagram, anything you would want to share with our listeners.
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This was such a fun conversation, and I think we could keep going for hours. I hope at some point we can meet in person and enjoy a coffee together.
Yeah.
Come to Milwaukee.
Or a German beer. Come on.
Oh, yes. Okay, a German beer it is. Love that. People can find us at XenaWorkwear.com, and Xena spelled XENA. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to me directly, email me at Anastasia@XenaWorkwear.com or connect with me on LinkedIn under Anastasia Kraft. I'm happy to help any way I can and love to connect with like-minded people.
My last question that I have to ask is the name Xena. Is it because of the Warrior Princess?
We brainstormed so many names, and basically at some point I had a few of my friends around me and said, okay, guys, what is the most badass female name that you can think of? And then they started throwing up a bunch of names. I'm like, Xena sounds good. I mean, what you connect in your head is, if you connect it to the Warrior Princess, that's good. But we never use any of that in our marketing.
No, you are not using, that's correct. Not developed out of the character known as Xena, but yes, it is a pretty badass name. Well, you can find You can follow along with us. I'm sure we'll have Anna on again. You can follow us on Making Spaces Podcast on Instagram, as well as you can send us an email at makingspacespodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us and find our show anchor.fm// Is this a slash Making Spaces? Josie, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Josie Takes the World. You can find me on Twitter at Josie Takes the. That's about it.
And this week we have a big announcement. You can now get merch. We have actually started designing clothes. So from a couple weeks ago, we had a great conversation where someone said, you belong here because you are here. And so we have made a bunch of t-shirts that say you belong here because you are here. If you're looking for those, where can they find them?
You can go to Society6/Making Spaces Podcast, and they don't just come in t-shirts. You can get a mug, a phone case, a credenza, a shower curtain.
Oh my heavens. Like, who needs a credenza
I don't
with
judge
that
them.
on it?
They can do whatever they want.
I'm not
None
judging
of my
anyone.
business.
It has been a delight to be with you guys. I'm going to pause. You guys stay on here. I'm going to pause the recording. Friends, thank you so much for joining us. I will say this. Join us next week. We will be
Saving space for you. Bye.